All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 10th of April, 2024. Flyers Daily, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Obviously, as a content creator, this is not one of those days you're looking forward to make content. I like to make content that makes people happy or maybe helps educate or inform, laugh, but this is no laughing matter now as the Flyers go into Montreal last night, lose their eighth straight game down the stretch, and lose it by a score of 9-3. Now, mind you, you gave up 9 goals to a Montreal team that was 27th in scoring, 2.7 goals per games played this season. And you go into this game and you lose by 6. You go into the third period down 6-0, and you lose the game 9-3. And it's just incredibly, incredibly frustrating. Like, give you some of the details on the game real quick. They really don't matter. Flyers outshoot Montreal 35-31. That means nothing. They win the face-off battle 55% to 45%. But again, it means nothing. One first period goal. Slafkovsky is able to beat Sam Ersson to make it 1-0, just 1:05 into the game. That's kind of disturbing on itself, just because it's only a minute 5 into a game. And then you go into the second period, and there's a stretch from 8:43 to 12:42 where Montreal scores 4 goals, and then they get a fifth one of the period at 15:27. Slafkovsky gets the hat trick in the period, and now you're down 6-0. Flyers pull Sam Ersson out of the game after the Josh Anderson goal. Then Christian Dvorak scores on Ivan Fedotov, who's being thrown into the game from literally across the other side of the rink because, as Brian Smith pointed out on our radio broadcast, like, it's hard to go into a game for a goalie with 15 minutes into the second period. You've been sitting for probably a good 90 minutes watching hockey at that point in your equipment. You're 90 minutes post warm up. Your body tightens and everything, and you're trying to stay mentally in the game. Montreal, that's a little more difficult because the backup goaltender is not on the bench. The backup goaltender is across the ice by himself, sitting on a stool at the entrance to the locker room. Not even room for him on the bench. So he's over there disconnected behind glass, mind you, disconnected from the game, and he's got to go in. He gives up that goal to Christian Dvorak, comes out and plays the third period. Flyers score 3 in the third, give up 3 in the third, and it's a final score of 9-3. And again, this is the unique combination that we're seeing of an inability to miss the opposition goalie. I mean, the Flyers had a ton of high danger chances in the game. They outchanced Montreal in the game significantly. They outshot them, but who cares about shots? They had more high danger quality scoring opportunities than Montreal by a decent margin, but they can't finish. They can't put the puck in the net. They either hit a post, or they shoot it, miss the net, or they just hit the goalie. I know they scored 3 goals, but I'm not worried about that. Those 3 goals were when the game was way out of hand. You got to score goals when the game is still up for grabs. That was not the case. And so it's the unique ability of not being able to miss the opposition goalie and then not being able to get a save at your end. And that, when I say not be able to get a save at your end, it's not just on the goalies, although they haven't been good. It's goals allowed is a team stat. It's not just a goalie stat. To this degree. Yeah, sometimes a goalie lets in a bad goal, a laugher. But overall, when you see this is just the inability to defend, and everything is going against you. And the Flyers lose 9-3, and frankly, it's embarrassing. And I'm sure that every guy on that team is embarrassed. And all the goodwill from the first, 68, 70 games of the year, right now in this recency moment, feels like it was all for naught. It felt like a step forward, but this feels like 50 steps backwards right now. I mean, you look at the margins since the gauntlet. Okay, the gauntlet ends. That was New York Rangers on March 26th. Since then, the Flyers are 0-5-1 They've scored 12 goals, and they've given up 32 goals in 6 games. I mean, it doesn't take a math major to figure out that that is unbelievably poor at both ends, frankly. And this is at a time when this team, they had control of the standings and making the postseason. And, it was an us against the world mentality. Where did that go? I know some things are different. There's some injuries and some guys burned the candle at both ends, like Sean Couturier played too many minutes maybe in the beginning of the year. And Carter Hart's not here, and they traded Sean. I get all of that. But 0-5-1, 12 goals for, 32 against, that does not add up to that. So the really big question, as I sit here, like I could come on in this episode and just start yelling and screaming, trade this guy, trade that guy, fire that, that's not what I do. You guys know that's not what I do. I'm trying to remain cool-headed in this situation. But here's the fact of the matter is the game got done and I got done doing the post-game show. I'm going, okay, how am I going to collect my thoughts and talk about a 9-3 loss to Montreal, second time they lost to the team in a week? What is there to say about this game? Now, again, like I see my Twitter, it's going bananas. Fire Torts, the team has quit, all of these things. First of all, I don't think they've quit. I don't. If you look at the scoring chances in the game, I mean, to me, they haven't quit. Or if any individual player has quit, you got to identify that and you got to eliminate that. Like you can't have that. I don't think they've quit. I just think they're a team that's playing horribly right now. Not poor, horribly. The confluence of all of these horrible traits. I don't think that they've quit. Now, a lot of people, and the people that are harsh critics of John Tortorella will say, well, he rode him too hard, and it's not sustainable to play that way through an entire season. And look, your narrative is bolstered right now. I don't think they've quit. I know a lot of people, and I see it on my social media, do. But I do not think that is the case. I think this is a team that is shell-shocked by what's gone on and doesn't have a clue how to get out of it right now. And frankly, they may not get out of it at all the remainder of this season. They only have 3 games left. But the question that I kept coming back to when I was collecting my thoughts is this. How does this affect the evaluation of the season? How does this affect the evaluation of certain players? How does this affect the evaluation of everything? Because, they were a team, we've talked about it, that wasn't supposed to be in the playoff mix, that they were going to be a bottom 5 team and blah, blah, blah. And they overachieved for so much of this season. But you can miss out on a playoff spot that you had late in the season and go, okay, they ran out of gas. They didn't get there, but it was an incremental step forward. But then there's this, which again, 12 goals for, 0-5-1 in their last 6 games, and 32 goals allowed. This isn't just we ran out of gas and we just couldn't push it all the way over the goal line. This is different at the end. This is an epic collapse of a team that played the right way and would get timely saves and that's all gone. It's evaporated. Poof. It's gone. And you got to figure out, why is it gone? You got to figure out how to evaluate this now with all of these really sideways results. Because you can't look at it just wins, loss on paper. Certain games and losses have to carry a different element, like a big win, like when the Flyers beat Dallas, that 5-1 game at Wells Fargo Center, held Dallas to like 2 shots in the second period. Like we held that game in a different regard because that was a great game for them. So if we're going to do that, we got to do it the other way. We got to do it when you lose 9-3 to Montreal and you have everything to play for to try and keep yourself in that playoff conversation. You have to ask, what does this mean? How does this affect the evaluation of this team? It's got to have an effect. It's not losing 2-1 and you got goalied in Montreal. It was 9-3 and you got shellacked in Montreal. So you have to consider that. And look, I don't know at this moment what it's all going to mean at the end of the season. I really don't. My brain is not at that spot yet. I'm not ready to evaluate the totality of the season. But what I do know is that this stretch of games is a huge stretch that you have to look at very closely as to why it took place, how it took place, and what it means. I don't know what it means right now. I don't. Again, I do not think they have quit. I think that they're playing incredibly poorly, and the results speak to that. I don't think that players just quit on coaches. I guess some players do, but I just don't think that's the case. I don't believe that is the case here. But, this is going to be for Danny Briere and Keith Jones to look at the end of this season under a calm head, an analytical mind, and an evaluation that this wasn't just a loss. It's a 9-3 loss. The game prior wasn't just a loss to Columbus 6-2. The game before that, 4-2 against Buffalo. I thought they actually played well against Buffalo, even though they lost. You look at the Islander game in the second period, it was bad. The 5-1 loss against Chicago, really bad. You got to look at these and go, how does this affect our evaluation, our perception of what is here now? And how do we weigh this part of the evaluation? Now, as fans, and we weigh this extremely high right now because this is in real time. We remember the most recent things most vividly. Like I go back to that Dallas game. I remember being elated at the way they played that game. But I don't feel any elation still from that win. I feel miserable right now. Perplexed how a team can go from where they were to where they are. Like that. Now, it wasn't quite the snap of a finger, but it's been a process to get where they are. I always use the term, the plane starts dipping the nose, starts going towards the ground. You got to pull up on the stick. You need a little gradual pull-ups on the stick to get the nose back up in a season. Well, there's no pulling up on the stick now. Let's get the parachutes and let's go. Because this thing's going down. And it was just, you look at that result, and it is confounding. It is one of those things. And look, my email is blown up. People, Flyer fans, just very frustrated. And guess what? You absolutely are entitled to be frustrated. My only thing, I come on this podcast, my job's not to come on here and freak out. I do sometimes. I have to, I use this metaphor of when you're really mad at a coworker or a boss, sometimes it's good to write them an email and send it to yourself in that moment because you're so angry, or you're just, the endorphins of confrontation or anger or whatever, disappointment are all kicking in. So you send that email to yourself, you look at it the next day under a calmer mind, and you can be a little bit more analytical. Well, maybe I had something to do with the confrontation, all that. Here in this situation, I mean, I'm recording this fresh out of the game, and I cannot believe what I'm seeing from a team earlier in the season that I did not think was capable of this, capable of all the wrong things. It's crazy. And look, when you talk about the evaluation, how this all affects it, it does throw some big things into the equation. It does throw the element of that room is right. Torts has talked about the room and getting that right. And it's been a big strength of this team all season long. Well, based on performance, that doesn't look like a room that is rock solid. Guys playing for each other and sacrificing. They're still playing hard, and I don't think they've quit. But is that room is now a question mark when you have this many of these results against what you would deem as inferior teams? When you go into the next season, there's question marks in goal. Sam Erson's played a lot in the second half. He has. Third most, I think, games in the NHL since the All-Star break. But there's a question mark there. How is he going to rebound from this? How is Ivan Fedotov going to develop in the NHL? Guy tweeted me and said, I've noticed something about Fedotov, and I've seen it as well. I saw it in practice. Monsoon Monahan said, I noticed that he looks down to see where he is in his crease. Well, you know why he does that? It wasn't Monsoon Monahan, sorry. But he's doing that because he's used to a big rink and he's trying to figure out where his depth is. He's got to adjust to the NHL. Is he a guarantee that he's going to be a rock solid number 1 or number 2 in the NHL next year? Heck no. Is Sam Ersson? No. How's he going to react to the way this season has gone? Being pulled again. How's he going to rebound from it? There's questions in goal. There's questions for a lot of players that are in this locker room and guys that are under contract. This evaluation and how the end of this season will affect it is going to be fascinating. We'll do our evaluations, and I know you guys will as well. And we're doing them now. People are yelling and screaming on social media. I get it. You're pissed off. Well, that is justified. How this affects the evaluations of the group going forward, the team, and how it affects the evaluations and the decisions going forward is something that is going to be paramount. That's paramount. A guy had DM'd me and said, how do you judge? How do you evaluate on a game like this where everybody was horrible? I think there's more you can gain in evaluation when a team is going through something like this than you can when it's good. It's easy to evaluate guys when things are going good and there's no pressure and we're humming along. When the bleep hits the fan, that's when you can gain great insight on evaluation. Now, I'd rather not go through this. I'd rather not have the ability to evaluate players in this situation. Of course, there's more to be gained by finishing out strong and ending up in the playoffs. But there's a lot to evaluate when things go this sideways. All right, let's wrap it up there. We'll get on cooler head tomorrow, and we'll push forward. We'll preview Flyers Rangers, although I'm not going to do much of a preview. But I'm probably going to take on a lot of emails and DMs and tweets because my inbox is overflowing again. We just emptied it out the other day, and now it's going nuts. And I get why. So we'll take that on tomorrow. So join us then on a brand new Flyers Daily.